Here to break all of this down is Detroit City Councilwoman Mary Waters, and joining us via Zoom is Troy Mayor Ethan Baker. Thank you both for being here.
Hi.
And Mary, I want
to be here. Good to see you.
I want to start with you first. As far as, the front runner opting out of the debate when she had, I think, 65 plus days notice, what does that say to you, if anything at all?
Well, what it says to me is the fact that Mike Duggan is no longer in the race at all. And it says that she decided that she was not going to provide a platform for Chris Swanson. And that's exactly what she did. She had nothing to gain by debating Chris Swanson. She had everything to lose.
So it shows confidence, in your opinion?
Well, it shows that she decided she was not going to provide a platform for Chris Swanson, and that's for sure. But the thing about it is that when you make that commitment so far out, you ought to be willing to keep that commitment, and I'm sure Democratic voters were, anxious to hear from her on that platform. But she made a political decision and decided that it was not worth her time to debate Chris Swanson.
And Ethan, I'll feel the same question to you. What do you make of Jocelyn Benson deciding not to be here on the pulse for this debate?
Yeah, I think the councilwoman's right in certain respects. For me, I think she actually had the opposite effect and gave a complete platform to Sheriff Swanson. She gave him, in fact, an hour of airtime to pretty much speak at will about his plans for running the state of Michigan. And I think that actually could potentially backfire on her, especially when it looks like she was kind of defensive and didn't want to do it. And I saw what the interview she gave Fox 2 outside of her other event, and to me it just wasn't quite the right tone, and it was disappointing that she didn't join for the debate. I think it was a very good opportunity for her to state if she believes she is the front runner, which all the polling shows that she is. It would have given her a great opportunity to start to actually show why she should be governor and have a much bigger audience.
And Ethan, we'll stick with you. What does the crowded Republican field make of this when there are sort of these push-pull headlines for the Democrats?
Yeah, I think as a Republican, anytime you see Democrats fighting or squabbling over something, that's good for the Republican Party or the Republican candidate or candidates, whoever the ultimate one will be. And I think certainly the same is for when it's the other way around as well. But clearly Secretary Benson is very confident that she's going to be the Democratic nominee, which, again, by all the polling standards, she looks like she's going to be. But I just don't think it's a great look for her to pretty much say, I'm not worried about the primary at this point. I'll look forward to debating the Republican candidate in the fall. That to me was a little bit, tone deaf.
And Mary, what about you? Do you think that it shows fracturing in the party at all when you have these kind of, like I said, push-pull headlines?
Well, not necessarily any fracture in the party. But, the thing about it is that you just can't be... You're running for the top job in the state of Michigan. It's the top job.
Sure.
People really want to hear from you. They want to hear what you think, what your plans are, what you've done before, why they should vote for you. And Fox 2 happened to be a major platform for her to share in that. I thought that it was a bit disrespectful of the people in the state of Michigan. After she made that commitment, what she should not have done was to make the commitment and not keep it. And see, she has to really build on her base. She really has to. And she doesn't think that she has to, but she really does. And I-75 corridor, areas like cities like Detroit and Flint and Saginaw and Pontiac. Listen, people don't know her as well as she believes that they know her. And so she has some work to do. She needs a better team around her so that she can get that done. And it was an opportunity. I can tell you a lot of Detroiters watch Fox 2.
Absolutely.
And that would be an opportunity for them to get to know Secretary Benson much better.
And debates are one of those situations where there is the element of surprise. I know we did it here on Fox 2. We had viewers submitting questions in real time. So you don't get that sort of contrived response from these candidates. And this was a perfect opportunity to sort of show her on her feet.
Yeah, and she's an attorney too, so I know she's a pretty good debater,
Right.
And it's too bad that she missed the opportunity to do exactly that. She has a lot of challenges coming down the road herself. Data centers. She says that her husband will will certainly not be involved in these data centers in Michigan, but there was a big article about that. So he says he's going to recuse himself, but I have to say, don't play us.
Yeah, that came up a lot last night during our debate. Ethan Baker, you're smiling there. I know these data centers, it's a hot button issue. We're going to field those questions to Republicans when we do the debate for governor next month. What did you make of that in terms of Swanson's take on all of this and vice versa, Jocelyn Benson's?
Yeah, well, I think data centers are certainly politically something that's gotten a lot of attention right now in this state, throughout the whole state. So I'm not surprised that the questions are being asked, and I'm very curious how each candidate's going to respond. I think you'll see a variety of different answers, even though you see polling pretty consistently show that our residents don't like those data centers, and it seems like a pretty tough hill for anyone to climb. But Sheriff Swanson did a good job, I think, of talking about the issue from his perspective. And he faces challenges too, in that he's in law enforcement, which is a wonderful field, obviously, but you don't always have a pulse of what's going on in a lot of other forms of government, or a lot of other parts of government when you're in law enforcement specifically. So he's done a great job, I think, getting up to speed on all these issues. The issue as it relates to Secretary Benson's husband and that potential conflict of interest, or the actual conflict of interest, and how he should recuse himself, that's going to, I think, dog Secretary Benson throughout this campaign, because it's an easy thing for people to not feel comfortable with. But it's going to come up time and time again throughout this campaign, on the Republican side, on the Democrat side. I was at a Republican debate a few weeks ago, and it was talked about, and each of the candidates there had a different take on it as well. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out as more and more data centers are proposed, and people start paying attention a little bit more to the elections.
And Jessica, it could be her Achilles heel. In fact,
foresee that.
Communities are angry about these data centers. There's too much that is unknown. You have the environmental justice issues. We have the Great Lakes in this world, and certainly in this country. And so we're talking about draining all of our water resources with these data centers. It's not enough. Money is not enough. They keep saying it's going to bring jobs. I can tell you, in the city of Detroit, every time they say they're going to bring all these jobs, Detroiters don't get the jobs.
And there's worries on both sides of the aisle. And Ethan, I want to go back to you for just a second. You bring up an interesting point regarding Swanson being in law enforcement. As a Republican, any concern there that sort of dichotomy of him being in law enforcement might pull some Republican votes if he is in fact the nominee?
Well, concern for me as a Republican, no. I think that sounds like I hear what you're saying. I think he made a clear point last night that he was somebody in Genesee County who's gotten votes from Democrats and Republicans. And sure, that is definitely something that would, from the Republican side, gives us a little bit more concern, as maybe he's a more viable statewide candidate for the Democratic Party. And frankly, a Democrat who's in law enforcement, who has an ability to pull Republican and Democrat and independent votes, that is something that the Republicans should worry about. I think up until now, we've seen consistently Secretary Benson polling so well that it hasn't been the true concern that it could play out to be. But if you see him pull up a little, on Secretary Benson's heels, and it actually becomes a race, I think that could concern Republicans, just like there are Republicans who are concerned with Mayor Duggan pulling Republican votes as well. So that is always a challenge. I want to say, though, he's an active, current sheriff who is done a great job. And, I support our law enforcement officers, and I'm happy to see a sheriff running for this job, because I think that law enforcement brings a really unique perspective.
All right, Ethan,
Chris Swanson will not be the nominee, the Democratic nominee.
Even after last night, still not.
He will not.
All right, well, thank you both for weighing in tonight. We appreciate it. And of course, we will host the Republican debate next month. It was supposed to be a budget stronghold, moving on, a moneymaker, and a road funding fix, all rolled into one. But revenues from Michigan's wholesale marijuana tax have been much more mellow than expected. We'll break down why and what effects it'll have with a local dispensary owner. You're watching The Pulse.